What? I wish I could reuse them because they change what the kids learn, so have to do it again. Plus, math is the fun part of life, right? Day 3, Explorers Club. I don't know why this club wouldn't be capitalized, but whatever. They went hiking in Big Bend, which I guess is a place. It says they hiked 6 miles south towards South Rim. South, check. Then they went and hiked 8 miles east towards a trail called the Window. Wow, what fun names they have. Then they took a shortcut that was a diagonal between 2 points. How far did they travel back? Okay, so we've seen this before. Anytime you have a situation where it says you go one direction and then you go another direction and then it talks about a diagonal, really this is a right triangle problem. So first off, draw yourself one right triangle. That's right, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I gave her the questions ahead of time so she could be better prepared. So we fill in the numbers. 6 miles south. South goes up and down. We can call this 6. Then 8 miles east. Coincidentally, I drew my triangle correctly. East is left to right, so they could go 8 this way. So what happened was they went down, and then they went over, and then they took a shortcut back, which was this length here, which we'd call C because it's across from this right angle. Okay? The actual directions don't really matter, it's just that you can see that if you have 2 different directions, it makes a right triangle. And this keyword diagonal almost always implies we're going to use this formula. Okay, hopefully you've seen these numbers enough that you just know the answer without having to work it out, but we'll work it out anyway. 6 and 8 squared, that's 36 plus 64 is 100. So how do we get rid of the squared? We take the square root. And what number times itself gives you 100? That is 10. See? She knew the answers already.
No, I'm smart.
Yeah. And that would be 10 miles. Okay. That's it. Right triangles. And then fun facts. I didn't actually know where Big Bend was. I assumed it was somewhere in Texas, but in Europe. See, she didn't look up the extra questions. Here's our map. Hey, look, it's Texas. Get out of here, triangle. We don't need you anymore. Alright, so here's Caffey down here on the water. And here's Big Bend out in the wilderness of West Texas. There's not even any roads here. Look, this last part, it just has a dotted line, implying there's not even an actual road there.
Wait, so did you make these questions up?
No.
But then how do you know? Why is it in Corpus area?
It's not in Corpus area. Look at the map. Big Bend is 488 miles from Corpus.
No one's had a map.
Yes, you are. So anyways, if you need something to do this spring break, you can take an adventure out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas, which I guess is real. I've never been there. Alright, number 2. Equilateral triangle has a length of 4 centimeters. I assume has a length. That would mean all the lengths, since equilateral means all sides are the same. So we could draw ourselves a equilateral triangle here.
Well, if it's an equilateral triangle, you don't need a square plus b squared equals c squared.
Correct, but this is a totally different question. It is dilated, and dilate means to make
Smaller.
or the opposite of smaller,
Dilate means to make smaller.
or
Bigger.
hey, bigger or smaller.
Stand.
But this time it says scale factor is 2.5, which means we are getting bigger. Okay, so our scale factor equals 2.5. And we remember back, I'm going to write this one down because it's going to start showing up more. Anytime you do scale factor, the new amount will always equal the original amount times the scale factor raised to the number of dimensions. Okay, dimensions. There are 3 dimensions we know about. This is supposed to be an S. That's not what counts. 5. Let's write this again. Number of dimensions. So if we start with the easier ones, we talk about volume. Volume's in 3 dimensions. We talk about area. That's in 2 dimensions. And then in this problem here, what is the length? Length is just 1 dimension. 1D. Ha 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 ha. They broke up to come back in the form of question number 2. So let's fill in our numbers. The original length was 4 times scale factor 2.5 to the first power, so we don't even have to write anything down. So all this question's asking you is what's 4 times 2.5. Okay, nice and easy. And that is 10. And our units here is centimeters. Since we're just talking about length, that's not squared, it's just 10 centimeters. And before you say you wouldn't have any questions that just involve you doing basic math, it's not basic math, it's scale factor, and that's complicated. Here it is. Look, it's got formula. Okay. Architectural, yes. That is almost a word.
Oh, how do you say it?
You keep working on that. Okay.
Oh, just tell me how you say it.
Nope, that's not as much fun. Alright, what is the difference between simple and compound interest if we have a principal of 500 for 2 years at a rate of 3%? Okay, this is nice and easy because all your numbers are the same for both cases. We're just going to need 2 separate formulas. One for simple interest, which looks like I equals PRT. Again, these are all on your formula chart. And compound interest, which is A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T power. Okay, principal in both cases is 500. Our rate, 3%. Don't forget, you can't do math with percents. You have to make it a decimal. So move it back 2 places. That is 0.03. So times 0.03. And our time is just 2 for 2 years.
The magic curtain has tackle.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Okay. So over here, 500 times 0.03 times 2. Throw that in your calculator. That will give you 30. So our interest equals $30. Excuse me. Over here, compound interest. Doesn't specify what it is, so we can take that to mean annual, which means we don't have to do anything fancy with rate and time. I'm just going to leave them as is. So we have 500 times 1 plus 0.03 raised to the second power. So now when you put this in your calculator, hopefully some of you have picked up on it already. Every time it's just 1 plus this number here. Instead of actually typing out 1 plus 0.03, you could simply just say what is 500 times 1.03, because 1 plus any decimal is just 1 point of that decimal. Okay, raised to the second power. And that saves you a couple of parentheses and a plus sign, and all in all it's a little bit quicker. Alright, when you do that, we get A equals 530.45. Okay. And then it wants the difference between them. So now the mistake some people make, they'll take this amount, they'll take this amount, and they'll take the difference between them, and they'll get $500.45. And I'm like, wow, you get a lot more compound interest. But if you stop and actually consider that, that doesn't really make sense. Because even though compound does give you more, in just 2 years at 3%, that's really not a lot of time or a lot of interest. To have a $500 difference isn't reasonable at all. So we go back and think the difference between our formulas, where I here stands for interest earned, right? And over here, A stands for account balance, or the total amount of money. So over here, we only figured out interest, whereas over here we figured out the the total amount after 2 years. So we can't take the difference between these because these are representing two different things. So now two ways we could do this. We could either just find the interest over here by saying what is 530.45 minus $500, which is $30.45. Okay, which would then give us a difference from $30 to $30.45 as just $0.45. Okay, that's one way we could do it. The other way, if you're feeling more positive, is we could say what is $30 plus the original amount we started with, which is 530, right? And then compare this number, this balance, with this balance. I know, gasp indeed. And this difference between these two is also 45 cents. So don't do both, that's redundant, but you do need to do one and recognize simple and compound interest do yield different types of answers. You need to adjust for that. Okay, alright. Number 4, the gym is offering a fitness special with an initiation fee of $35 and a monthly fee of $45. Okay, so let's start with this one. How can we turn this into math? So, we've been writing equations. Equations generally fall in this form of y equals mx plus b. So what is our rate? Well, the monthly part of this, right, is $45, which would mean our slope is 45x, plus what do you pay to sign up, which is your fee, which would be $35. This is the original situation, $45 a month plus $35 to start. Then it says they decided to decrease the monthly fee from 45 to 29. Okay, so that changes this number here, so 45 is instead going to be 29. Nothing else changed, you still pay this plus 35. Oops, x plus 35. Okay, how would this affect slope and the y-intercepts? So we could say, let me type this out so not to do it with my head, right? We can see the slope changed, it went down. When slope goes down, it becomes less steep, so slope is less steep because it is smaller now. Comma. Comma. What are we doing? What happened to the y-intercept? Y-intercept does not change. Alright. There's your answer. So how does that affect slope? Y-intercept, slope's less steep. Y-intercept doesn't change. Okay. The only way the y-intercept could change is if they said, like, we're going to drop the initiation fee, but we'll keep the monthly fee the same. Which might work better, because nobody wants to pay $35 just to show up. That is true. That's why I said it. Alright, number 5. Which of the following points belongs to the function y equals x divided by 3 plus 2? Alright, so... Oh my goodness. No, you don't. Don't listen to her. Remember, points are in the form of x, comma, y. If you don't like seeing them in point form, you could put them into table form. So we have 9, 5, 6, 6, and 12, 6. So now, if it belongs to the function, if we substitute in x and y into our equation, it should still work. Okay? So I'm going to put equals divided by 3 plus 2. Alright. And then we'll fill in y, x. And we're just going to try it. So I'm going to copy this down. There's the magic part. So our first x and y, x is 9, y is 5. So is this statement true? So 9 divided by 3 is 3 plus 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. So that works. Check. This is good. It doesn't say there's only one, so let's just check the other ones just to be sure. So next one says x and y are both 6. So 6 divided by 3, that's 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, which is not 6. 4 does not equal 6. This is an incorrect statement. We can't pick that one. And let's try our third one, just to be thorough. When x is 12, does y equal 6? Alright, so 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 plus 2. Does 4 plus 2 equal 6? Yes, it does. So we have 2 correct answers here. Alright, so if it wants to know if it belongs to the function, take the function, plug in values for x and y, check to see if it's true. Remember, you can do this in the calculator. If you put this whole thing into the calculator, including the equal sign, it'll tell you true or false. This one would have said true. This one would have said false. This one would have said true. And then you just select the ones that it's asking you to find. Okay? Alright, number 6. We didn't talk about this one, but hopefully we can common sense our way through this. So we want to find out how popular a new restaurant at the mall is, state whether each survey plan describes a good sample. Okay, so the trick to deciding these questions, because they all kind of look very similar. How do you pick a good sample? And the answer is always the one that appears to ask the most random group of people. Okay? So we don't want them grouped up. We want it spread out. So let's check our answers. So interview the first 10 people walking into the mall. So now you might not be aware of this as children, but the mall exists before noon. Yes, it's true. There are people that go there and they wander the mall aimlessly or for exercise. I don't know. I try not to make eye contact with them. Whatever. That's generalizing. Anyways, but if you only ask those first 10 people, does that really give a good description of the kind of people that go to the mall? The answer is no, it does not. Okay. Next one, interview 20 people coming out of the restaurant. Now you might think, oh, that's pretty smart because the question's about the restaurant. But if you actually think about it, if you're trying to get survey results about how popular a place is, but you're only asking the people that are at the place you want to know about, does that really tell you much? Who's going to say, yeah, I was just at this restaurant, but it wasn't popular. I go to unpopular places because I'm an unpopular person. No, you're not going to get accurate results from people who are at the place you're asking about. So try not to pick this one. Alright, interview every 5th person. Okay, this right here, this is pretty good. I can probably stop reading here. Every 5th person is pretty spread out, especially considering the other 2 choices. And then at random, anytime it says the word random, that adds to the validity of that answer choice. And who enters them all? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so every 5th person sounds pretty good because you're not asking everyone, and you're doing it randomly. That's a good sample. Good-ish. I don't know. I wouldn't trust any answer from people hanging out at the mall. Not to offend people who like to hang out at the mall. Alright, this place employs 20 math geniuses. Okay. But they don't necessarily work the exact same hours. They can answer 20 problems per hour. Good for them. Total number of problems which can be verified is given by this function p equals 20x. Where x is the number of math, blah, 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 blah. What's a reasonable range of this function? So range is y. So we're solving for y. Or in this case, p. Let's call it p here. For this function during a 1 hour time period. Okay. So the key here is they have 20 people, but they're not necessarily working. So we have to consider what is the fewest number of people that can be working at any given time.
1.
Try again.
0.
0. Is there a possibility that nobody's working? Yes. So when x is 0, what is our answer? So 20 times 0 equals, that's right, 0. So the low end of this is 0 questions. Okay? The opposite end of this, what is the maximum number of people that can be working at any given time? Out of 20 people. 20. So if you had 20 answers per problem for 20 people, 20 times 20 is, it'll take all day, I'm just going to say it, that's 400. Okay? So a reasonable range is somewhere between 0 and 400. That's it. Okay? So anytime it talks about this reasonable range, you say what's the least amount, what's the maximum amount, and then it's somewhere in between. Okay. Number 8. Y equals x squared minus 9 is true. Is this statement true as well? Independent variable x is equal to 9 less than the square of the independent variable y. Sort of seems like a typo since they're saying that this independent variable and this is also the independent variable, but we know that y is very much dependent. But let's go with it anyway. So x is equal to, so x equals 9 less than the square of y. So y squared. And then 9 less than that would be minus 9. And is that the same as this here? Similar. Except they got their x and y backwards, which means, is that necessarily true? Maybe. Let's pick a number. So let's pick a value for x. 10. Alright. So up here, y equals x squared minus 9. If x was 10, 10 squared minus 9, does that equal, what does that equal? So this would be 100. Thank you for picking a big enough number here for us. That was a sarcastic thing. 100 minus 9 is 91. So we have a point 1091. Alright. So now, I'm actually going to need a calculator for this one because Katie picked a number we can't work with. So does this statement, is that also true here? Actually, we can just sort of, well, let's come up with the actual number. Since Katie was nice enough to pick 91, what is 91 times 91? Okay. So if this is true, then 10 should equal 91 squared minus 9. And 91 squared is 8,281 minus 9 is 8,272. So does 10 equal 8,272? The answer is no. So are these two the same? No, they are not. No. No, you can't. No, we're done with this one. I'm not doing that again. Doesn't matter what you pick. This won't work because the variables are switched around. Alright, number 9. What is the y-intercept of the function f of x equals 5x minus 5? Alright, so f of x, as you may have learned from looking at your calculator all year, is just a fancy way of saying y. Y equals 5 times x minus 5. Then you're like, oh, we've done this before. This is distributing. And to distribute, we take the number outside the parentheses, and we're just going to multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. And then we can find the y-intercept. So this would be y equals 5 times x is just 5x. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. And our y-intercept, I guess we could write this down here. Our form, as always, is mx plus b, where b is our y-intercept, which is this number right here. Okay. Okay, one more. Almost done. Oh, this one. Okay, on average, Raylan, whoever says that she can walk 5.5 miles in 1 hour. This function represented here is the number of miles m that she can walk in h hours. Which quantity is the dependent? Okay, so y equals mx, right? And the dependent variable is always y. So our dependent variable is m here, which is the number of miles, which is this first one here. So this we can say is dependent. Yeah, let's fill in the rest just for fun. The number of hours she walks is represented by h hours here. Okay, so that would be x. That's our independent, because the only thing you can really choose is how long you're going to walk for. And then the miles per hour she walks, that is your slope or your rate of change. Okay, so what stands out to me, possibly to you, is anyone who's ever been outside and has like exercised at all, to see walking 5.5 miles, and this is miles per hour, right? She's saying she can walk 5.5 miles per hour, which is outstanding if you were like a professional race walker. But I looked this up because this seemed completely unbelievable, because it is. It said the average adult walks about 3 miles per hour. So Raylan is claiming she walks twice as fast, just on average, you know, on a regular day. She walks twice as fast as everyone else. So she's either a liar or she walks too fast, and someone should really tell her to calm down, because this is like a danger to other people. Like a light jog, according to the Wikipedia, is about 6 miles per hour. So she's jogging around. She's probably one of the first 10 people at the mall. Right? Full circle, because we were talking about that earlier. Or maybe when she goes to Big Bend National Park out in the wasteland of West Texas, which is your bonus. There's your bonus right here on the back of your paper. Okay, follow me here. You're gonna freehand a map of Texas, and you're gonna pick one of the 3 routes. These 2 in gray are the ones Google does not recommend for, because I think they picked the shortest time, right? You're gonna pick which of the 3 paths you want to go. You can either go around Kingsville and take the river route here, or you can go through San Antonio, which is like the way through civilization, or you can take the shortest possible path, which is this road through nowhere. I don't know if there's like even people in places like who lives here? Who lives here? Who lives here? Probably no one. You could be the very first person to ever see farmers. Who's growing things in South Texas? What are they growing? Dirt? I'll believe it when I see it. So go take some selfies out here. But for extra credit, draw a map. Okay. Night. Like, comment, and subscribe, or whatever. I don't know.